And one last announcement, Mom will be moving to Shady Oaks Nursing Home next week. We've already packed her things and sold her house. The world froze as my son David's words echoed through the microphone across his daughter Emma's graduation ceremony. Hundreds of strangers turned to stare at me in the front row, my face burning with shock and humiliation. "Stand up, Mom! There she is, wave to everyone!" David called out cheerfully, pointing me out like I was a prize pig at auction. 72 years old and publicly discarded, after I'd surrendered my teaching career to raise him alone, after I'd donated a kidney to save his life as a teen, after I'd remortgaged my home to pay his gambling debts 3 times over. My body trembled as cameras flashed. David handed back the microphone, matter closed. But something lethal awakened inside me that day. They thought I was finished. They had no idea what I was capable of. The drive home was silent. Emma had tried to catch my eye after the ceremony, but David's wife Vanessa whisked her away for photos with their country club friends. My own granddaughter, whom I'd practically raised, couldn't even speak to me. "You're being dramatic," David said when he finally dropped me off, not even bothering to walk me to the door. "It's a luxury facility. I've paid for the first 6 months. With money from selling my house?" My voice was surprisingly steady. "The house I haven't agreed to sell?" He sighed theatrically. "Mom, we've discussed this. You signed the power of attorney last year when you had pneumonia, remember? It's for your own good. You fell in February. I tripped on a rug once. The decision's made. Movers come Thursday. I've arranged for the doctor to prescribe something to help with the transition." He checked his watch. "I need to get back to Emma's party." I stood on my own porch, soon to be my former porch, and watched him drive away in his BMW, the BMW I'd co-signed for when his credit was ruined after the divorce. Inside, I discovered reality was worse than I'd imagined. Orange stickers marked furniture they were keeping. White stickers designated items for charity. Most of my possessions, my life had been categorized without my knowledge. My wedding china, the quilt my grandmother made, even my husband's ashes on the mantel had a white sticker. Charity. I sank onto my sofa, mind racing through the past decades. The night feedings when David had colic. Working double shifts at the hospital when John died suddenly, leaving me widowed at 34 with a 12-year-old. The second mortgage I took out for David's law school. The 5 years I spent raising Emma while David and Vanessa focused on their careers. Vanessa, who'd never forgiven me for being a living reminder that David had been married before. Vanessa, who'd gradually poisoned my son against me, convincing him I was becoming difficult and confused whenever I disagreed with their decisions. My cell phone rang, my sister Claire. "Helen, are you okay? I just got a strange email from David about selling your house." I told her everything, my voice cracking only at the mention of John's ashes. "That's elder abuse," she said fiercely. "They can't do this. The power of attorney was for medical decisions when you were ill, not—" "Apparently it was broader than I realized," I admitted. "I was running a fever of 103. I just signed what the hospital put in front of me." "You need a lawyer," Claire insisted. "I'm calling Marcus in the morning. He specializes in elder law. And you're coming to stay with me. I'm 3 hours away, but I'll drive up tomorrow." "No," I said, a plan beginning to form. "Not yet. If I leave, they'll change the locks. I need to stay until I figure this out." After we hung up, I went to my bedroom and retrieved the key to my fireproof safe from inside my old jewelry box. David had forgotten about this safe, installed in the floor of my closet years ago. Inside was what remained of my emergency fund, about $5,000 in cash, plus my real passport and birth certificate. More importantly, there were the letters, dozens of them, from various women to my son. Evidence of his affairs that his first wife had collected before their divorce and given to me for safekeeping. I'd never used them. never threatened him with exposure. I'd tried to protect him even when he was wrong. There was also a thumb drive containing financial records from when David had borrowed money from his firm's client trust accounts 5 years ago. I'd repaid the $43,000 to prevent charges being filed, depleting my retirement savings. He'd promised to pay me back. He never did. I sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor, these weapons of mutual destruction spread before me. For decades, I'd been the selfless mother, the supportive parent who sacrificed everything. That woman died today on a graduation stage, publicly humiliated and discarded. Tomorrow, I would begin dismantling the life my son thought he controlled. I didn't need physical strength or money or even public sympathy. I had something far more valuable. Nothing left to lose. I carefully repacked the safe and replaced it under the floorboard. Then I took out my phone and texted Emma directly. "Sweetheart, can you come see me tomorrow? Just you, it's important." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Of course, Grammy. Dad was awful today, I'm so sorry." The first piece on the board had moved. Emma arrived early the next morning, her graduation cap still in her car. Her eyes were puffy from crying. "Grammy, I had no idea Dad was going to do that, I swear." She collapsed into my arms like she used to as a little girl. "Vanessa's been talking about downsizing you for months, but I never thought they'd ambush you publicly." Downsizing me. The corporate terminology for a human life was telling. "That's how she phrases everything." Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Dad's been weird lately, secretive, always on his phone. When I asked about helping you move, he said I wasn't to interfere with their elder care strategy." I made us tea while Emma surveyed the stickered items around my living room. "They're taking your piano. You've been teaching me on that piano since I was 5. I nodded. "Apparently it fits their design vision for their vacation property." "What vacation property?" "This house once they're done with it." I set our cups down. "Emma, I need you to be completely honest. Has your father mentioned my mental state recently? Claims I'm confused or forgetful?" She hesitated, which was answer enough. "He told his partners at the firm you're showing signs of dementia," she finally admitted. "And Vanessa's been telling her friends you hallucinate sometimes." There it was, the groundwork for declaring me incompetent if I fought back. "Do I seem confused to you, Emma?" "Of course not, you're sharper than Dad is. You still do the New York Times crossword in pen." "Then I need your help. Not to fight with your father, I wouldn't put you in that position, but to be my witness. To verify I'm of sound mind." "Whatever you need, Grammy." I brought out a notebook. "First, I want you to record a video statement. Just you confirming I'm lucid and describing how they marked my belongings without permission." As Emma recorded the video, I sorted through decades of financial records I'd pulled from my filing cabinet overnight. Checks David had written from my accounts. The reverse mortgage papers I'd signed to bail out his failed restaurant venture. Medical bills from when I'd paid for Vanessa's cosmetic procedure that their insurance wouldn't cover. "Dad's always said you were bad with money," Emma commented, looking over my meticulous records. "But you've documented everything." "Your father has confused generous with gullible," I replied. "Now there's something else I need from you." I handed her a sealed envelope. "This contains my real will, not the one David thinks is current. Take it to this attorney." I wrote down Marcus's information. "Tell no one." "Grammy, you're scaring me." "Good. Be scared. But not of me, of what happens when people decide someone is disposable." After Emma left, I called Claire again to confirm our plan. Then I made 3 pivotal phone calls. First, to my bank, where I transferred my remaining funds to a new account David couldn't access. The manager, who'd known me for 20 years, was appropriately outraged when I explained the situation. Second, to Dr. Brenner, my physician of 30 years, requesting an immediate cognitive assessment. I need official documentation of my mental capacity, I explained. Today, if possible. Helen, I just saw you for your physical last month. You're mentally sharper than most of my 40-year-old patients. Nevertheless, I need it documented. My son is making claims. My final call was to Joanne Miller, society reporter for our local newspaper and my former book club member. Helen, how lovely to hear from you. I was just looking at photos from your granddaughter's graduation. Such a beautiful family moment. Was it? Did you find it beautiful when my son announced he was institutionalizing me and selling my home without my consent? Silence, then. I'm sorry, what? If you're free for lunch tomorrow, Joanne, I have quite a story for you. About elder exploitation, financial abuse, and what happens when successful men decide their mothers have served their purpose. After hanging up, I walked methodically through my home, photographing every stickered item. I opened David's old bedroom door, the shrine to his achievements I'd maintained for decades. Trophies I'd driven him across 3 states to win. Diplomas from schools I'd worked night shifts to afford. I began taking everything off the walls, carefully packing his memorabilia into boxes, not to protect it, to reclaim my space. The shrine was coming down. As I worked, my phone buzzed with a text from David. Movers coming at 9 a.m. Thursday instead. Nursing home expects you by noon. Don't make this difficult. I smiled as I typed back 6 simple words. I'm not going anywhere. Watch me. Then I blocked his number and continued dismantling the altar to a son who no longer deserved my worship. Wednesday morning, I woke to pounding on my front door. David stood on my porch, his expensive suit wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. You blocked my calls? What game are you playing? He pushed past me into the foyer. And why is Emma suddenly too busy to talk to us? Perhaps she's processing the public humiliation of her father announcing plans to warehouse her grandmother. I closed the door calmly. Coffee? I don't want coffee. I want you to stop whatever you're doing. The facility is paid for. The movers are coming tomorrow. I gestured to my living room, now rearranged. All orange stickered items were covered with sheets. All white stickered items were gone, donated overnight to a women's shelter with proper documentation. What have you done? He sputtered, yanking a sheet off his grandfather's antique desk. Exerting control over my own property. This is still legally my house. We have power of attorney for healthcare decisions during my pneumonia, not for liquidating my assets. I sat in my favourite chair. I've requested a complete review of that document. My attorney suggests it was obtained under duress. David's face flushed. Your attorney? Marcus Jeffries. Specialises in elder law and financial abuse cases. You might know him. He prosecuted the Henderson case last year. Son forced his mother into assisted living, sold her assets, went to prison for 4 years. The blood drained from David's face. This is nothing like that. We're protecting you. You're becoming forgetful. That's fascinating because Dr. Brenner conducted a full cognitive assessment yesterday. I handed him the sealed medical report. Perfect scores across all metrics. She's prepared to testify that I'm entirely competent. You've always been manipulative, he hissed, tossing the envelope aside unopened. This stops now. I'm calling the movers for today instead. Before you do that, I said, opening my laptop, there's something you should see. I turned the screen toward him. On it was an email draft addressed to all 12 partners at his law firm, with attachments clearly labelled. Trust account discrepancies, David Mercer, and repayment from Helen Mercer for client funds. His face went ashen. You wouldn't dare. I protected you then. I paid back the money you stole. I kept your career intact. I closed the laptop. But that was before you decided to auction off my life at your daughter's graduation. Those records are 5 years old, he stammered. It's your word against mine. The bank statements are quite explicit, as are the emails where you begged me to cover your borrowing before the quarterly audit. I smiled thinly. I've always kept receipts, David, for everything. He paced my living room like a trapped animal. What do you want? First, you'll cancel the nursing home and the movers. Second, you'll transfer my house back into my name exclusively. Yes, I know about that quiet title change last month. Third, you'll repay the $212,000 you've borrowed over the past decade. That's impossible. I don't have that kind of money. The vacation home in Sedona. Sell it. That's our retirement property. And my financial security was my retirement plan. Funny how these things work out. David slammed his hand on the wall. This is extortion. No, this is the consequence. For the first time in your life. I stood surprisingly steady. I have a lunch engagement with Joanne Miller from the Tribune today. Should I cancel, or would you like to see your name in her column? You're bluffing, he whispered, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. I raised you, supported you, sacrificed for you. I gave you a kidney, David. A piece of my body lives in yours, and you thanked me by planning my disposal like yesterday's trash. Something broke in his expression, fear replacing anger. Mom, I'm not finished. I've arranged a family meeting tomorrow evening. You, Vanessa, Emma, Claire, and my attorney will all be present. Bring your checkbook and the house deed. I opened my front door. Now get out of my home. He hesitated, calculation replacing shock. You know Vanessa will never let this go. She'll make Emma choose sides. Unlike you, I'd never use Emma as a pawn. She's an adult who can see the truth herself. After he left, I sat down and finally allowed myself to tremble. Decades of maternal protection had hardened into something else, a fierce determination to claim justice. The woman who had enabled his behavior for years was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who recognized that true love didn't mean accepting abuse. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Just landed, Operation Payback is proceeding. Did he take the bait? I texted back, hook, line, and sinker. See you at dinner. Bring the documents. The game had changed entirely. Now I was making the rules. Joanne Miller arrived at the cafe precisely at noon, recorder already in hand. The society reporter had transformed into an investigative journalist the moment she scented blood in the water. Helen, you look remarkably composed for someone who's supposedly declining mentally, she noted, studying me carefully. Amazing how cognitive decline appears exactly when someone becomes inconvenient. I smoothed my best blouse, the one I'd rescued from the charity pile. I've brought documents. For the next hour, I laid out my story systematically. The sudden power of attorney during my illness. The quiet title transfer of my home. The coincidental timing of my planned institutionalization with David and Vanessa's renovation plans for a pool house. Your son's a prominent attorney, Joanne said, reviewing the paperwork. These allegations could damage his reputation permanently. Should I care more about his reputation than he cared about my autonomy? I pushed a folder toward her. These are the financials. Every dollar I've given him over the past 15 years. The kidney donation medical records. And these, I slid over Emma's video testimony and Dr. Brenner's cognitive assessment, prove I'm being discarded, not cared for. Why go public? Why not handle this privately? Public humiliation deserves public consequence. He announced my disposal to an audience. Let an audience witness his accountability. Joanne's eyes gleamed with the promise of a front-page story. This will burn bridges, Helen. The bridges were already in flames when he decided I was disposable. After lunch, I met Claire at my attorney's office. Marcus Jeffries was exactly as I'd hoped, ruthlessly competent and righteously angry on my behalf. The power of attorney is vulnerable, he explained, reviewing the document. Signed under duress, overly broad application, and there's a strong case for financial exploitation. He looked up, eyes sharp. But this isn't just about legal remedies. You want justice. I want my son to feel what I felt. Complete vulnerability. The terror of having control stripped away. Claire squeezed my hand. The property transfer is already challenged. The bank accounts are secured. What else? We document everything for Emma's sake, I said firmly. She needs to understand why I'm doing this. This isn't revenge, it's correction. An hour later, we drove to my house where Emma waited on the porch, face tense. Dad's been calling non-stop, she said, hugging me. Vanessa showed up at my apartment saying you're having some kind of breakdown. Do I seem broken to you? I asked, leading them inside. No. You seem like you finally stopped letting them break you. Emma had brought everything I'd asked for her father's laptop password, access to their shared cloud storage, and, most importantly, Vanessa's social calendar. The choreography of tomorrow's confrontation needed to be precise. He's panicking, Emma reported. Called his partners for an emergency meeting. Vanessa's called a real estate agent about selling their Sedona house. They'll try to convince you I've lost my mind, I warned her, that I'm vindictive and confused. Grammy, I've watched them manipulate you for years. Dad takes and takes, then makes you feel guilty for having needs. Her young face hardened. I found something you should see. She opened her phone and showed me a text conversation between David and Vanessa from 3 months earlier. V, did you talk to your mother about the nursing home? D, not yet, waiting until after we close on Sedona. V, we need her house sold by summer to cover the renovations. D, I know, working on it. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. Always does. V, just tell her it's for Emma's future or something. That always works. My hands shook as I read their casual dismantling of my life. How did you get these? I asked. Dad left his iPad logged into his messages. I've been taking screenshots for months. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I knew something was wrong when they started moving your furniture while you were at my college visits. Claire examined the screenshots. This is damning, Helen. They've been planning this for months. A lifetime of making excuses for my son evaporated. The maternal instinct to protect him, even at my expense, finally burned away completely. Tomorrow, I said, setting down the phone. We stopped the cycle. I spent decades teaching my son he could take whatever he wanted from me without consequence. That stops now. As Claire and Emma prepared dinner, I walked through my home truly mine again, touching the walls, the furniture, the memories. For the first time in years, I felt neither guilt nor obligation, only clarity. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Documents ready, court filing prepared if needed. Operation accountability is for tomorrow, 6 p.m. I smiled, a weight lifting from my shoulders. Tomorrow would change everything. By 5:45 p.m. Thursday, my living room had been transformed into a courtroom of sorts. Marcus sat beside me at the dining table we'd moved in, legal documents arranged in precise stacks. Claire positioned herself by the doorway. Emma sat quietly on the sofa, her loyalty clear despite the impossible position we'd put her in. At precisely 6:01 p.m, the doorbell rang. "You're ready?" Claire asked, hand on the doorknob. "I've been ready for decades," I replied. David entered first, his lawyer's mask firmly in place, confident, slightly condescending. Vanessa followed, her surgical perfection unable to hide her fury. She'd dressed for battle in designer clothes and diamond earrings I'd once complimented. Earrings that, I now realized, had been purchased with money that should have repaid my retirement fund. "Mother," David began smoothly, "this dramatic summons was unnecessary. We could have—" "Sit down," I interrupted, pointing to the chairs arranged across from me. "You're late." Vanessa's eyes darted around the room, cataloguing witnesses. Is this some kind of intervention? Because if you think this is a reckoning, I said calmly, you have exactly one opportunity to make this right. Marcus slid the first document across the table. This rescinds the fraudulently obtained power of attorney. Mrs. Mercer has been medically certified as fully competent. David barely glanced at it before his professional smile reappeared. Mom's been confused lately. We're just concerned about— Save it, Claire snapped. We have the texts. Emma stepped forward, placing her phone on the table. I've given a Grammy to every conversation where you and Mom planned this. Every message about selling her house while she was helping me tour colleges. The color drained from David's face. Vanessa's hand clenched into a fist. You went through your father's private messages? Vanessa hissed. I saw what you were doing, Emma replied steadily. Someone had to protect the Grammy. Marcus continued, implacable. We've filed to reverse the property transfer. The nursing home contract has been cancelled, but Mrs. Mercer is prepared to avoid public litigation if you meet her terms. I placed my hands flat on the table. First, you will transfer my house back to me immediately. Second, you will repay every dollar I've given you, $212,000, within 30 days. That's absurd, Vanessa erupted. We don't have that kind of money liquid. Sell Sedona, I replied, like you were already considering. David's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. You'd never destroy our family publicly. I nodded to Marcus, who opened his laptop and turned it toward them. On screen was Joanne's article ready for publication in tomorrow's Tribune. The headline read, Respected attorney accused of elder exploitation. He took my kidney, my savings, and tried to take my home. One Call publishes this, I said quietly, complete with financial documentation. You can't be serious, David whispered, face ashen. The firm would ask you to leave? Investigate those trust account irregularities from 5 years ago? Yes, they might. This is blackmail, Vanessa sputtered. No, Marcus interjected. This is journalism. And evidence for a criminal investigation, should Mrs. Mercer choose that route. I slid another document across the table. This is a repayment agreement. Sign it now, return my house to my name by noon tomorrow, and the article stays unpublished. Your reputation remains intact. David stared at me, truly seeing me perhaps for the first time in decades. Not as an ATM, not as a convenient babysitter, not as a burden, but as a woman who had finally found her power. You would destroy me? He asked, voice breaking. Your only son? Something in me softened, not in weakness, but in clarity. I gave you life twice, once at birth and once with my kidney. I've given you everything I had, and you repaid me with public humiliation and attempted theft. I leaned forward. I'm not destroying you, David. I'm teaching you what should have been taught long ago. Actions have consequences. With trembling fingers, he signed the document. Vanessa, tears of rage streaking her makeup, signed after him. We'll need the Sedona property listed by next week, Marcus added. Mrs. Mercer will be monitoring compliance. As they stood to leave, Emma stepped forward. Dad? He turned, hope flickering briefly in his eyes. I'll be staying with Grammy until I leave for college. She needs someone trustworthy around. The door closed behind them with quiet finality. No shouting, no melodrama, just the simple end of decades of exploitation. Claire hugged me tightly. You did it, Helen. No, I corrected, watching through the window as David and Vanessa argued in the driveway. We did it, all of us. That night, I slept in my own home, in my own bed, planning my own future for the first time in decades. 3 months passed like a deep, cleansing breath. The money arrived exactly 30 days after our confrontation, a wire transfer for the full amount. David sold the Sedona property at a loss but fulfilled his obligation. The house deed was transferred back to my name the very next day. Not out of moral awakening, I suspected, but from fear of what Marcus called catastrophic reputational damage. I'd expected to feel vindication. Instead, I felt something quieter but more profound liberation. Emma stayed with me until leaving for college, helping me reclaim my space. Together, we repainted the walls in colours I'd always wanted but had been told were too bright. We planted a garden with vegetables instead of the formal landscaping Vanessa had always insisted was more appropriate. We laughed often. "You know," Emma said one evening as we sat on my newly built back deck, "I've never seen you like this before." "Like what?" "Like yourself." She squeezed my hand. "Not Grammy the ATM or Grammy the babysitter, just Helen, who does crosswords in pen and wants purple walls in her bedroom." Claire visited regularly, bringing friends who'd drifted away during my years of David-centered existence. My calendar is filled with book clubs, community theatre volunteer work, and a watercolour class I'd always wanted to take. David remained conspicuously absent. Vanessa sent a formal Christmas card with no personal message. I heard through mutual friends that they'd downsized to a smaller home and that David had taken a sabbatical from his firm voluntary or forced. I wasn't certain. I found I didn't particularly care. The article never ran in the Tribune. It didn't need to. The genuine threat had been enough, and I discovered I didn't need public vindication. Private accountability satisfied something deeper. On a crisp autumn morning, I received an unexpected visitor. David stood on my porch, thinner and greyer than I remembered, clutching an envelope. "May I come in?" he asked, eyes downcast. I hesitated before nodding. We sat in my living room, my purple-walled, plant-filled living room that no longer contained a single item with an orange sticker. "I've been in therapy," he said finally, "twice weekly since everything." I waited silently. "The therapist suggested I write this to you, this." He extended the envelope, but said I should only give it to you if I was genuinely remorseful, not just sorry I got caught. "And which is it?" I asked. "Both at first," he admitted. "Now, I think I understand what I did, not just at Emma's graduation, but for decades." I accepted the envelope but didn't open it. "Vanessa, we're separated. She wanted to fight you in court. I couldn't do it." He looked around the transformed space. "You seem well." "I am well for the first time in years. Emma barely speaks to me." "That's between you and her." He nodded slowly. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good, because it may never come." I set the envelope aside, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. After he left, I sat in my garden watching bumblebees navigate late-blooming flowers. I didn't open his letter immediately. It no longer held power over my happiness. That evening I video-called Emma at college. Her dorm room walls were as purple as mine. "Dad visited," I told her. "I know, he came here last week." Her expression was complicated, the love and disappointment that only family can entangle so thoroughly. "Do you think people can change, Grammy?" "I know they can," I replied. I did. Later, I finally read David's letter, 6 pages of apology, explanation, and accountability. Not excuses, but recognition of patterns learned and perpetuated, of treating care as transactional, of seeing me as a resource rather than a person. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I placed the letter in my desk drawer rather than my heart. Some wounds heal, others simply stop bleeding. Either way, you continue living. On my 73rd birthday, I submitted the final paperwork for something I'd secretly dreamed of for decades. A small foundation providing legal assistance to seniors facing financial exploitation. Funded, ironically, by my reclaimed assets. The certificate arrived bearing the name I'd chosen, the Second Act Foundation. Because that's what I'd discovered in the aftermath of betrayal, not an ending, but a beginning. Not a diminishing, but an expansion. Not a nursing home sentence, but a second act of my own design. I was no longer simply someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone's safety net. I was Helen, complete, uncompromised, authoring my own story. And the next chapter looked magnificent.